Hey Ed, this is Shravan. This is my demo for this milestone for engine 1. So here we go. I have the PDF open on the right, so I'm going to sort of go through all the features and demo them. So first of all, if you see, we have 16 objects on the screen, 4 different models and 4 instances of each models. Uh, so we have that. Um, Okay, I am moving my camera around using the arrow keys. So um, the up and down arrow keys to zoom in, zoom out, left and right to move the camera left and camera right. So there's that. If I hit the C key, like this is my front camera. So if I hit the C key, there you go. Now I will switch to my top camera, and this assumes, of course, that the up direction is in the negative Z. So you can see that these two diamonds over here are being rendered using the color light. Um, these models here I call the huts over here. These are just textures. The pyramids are texture lights, and then the cubes are again a mixture of color lights and texture lights. I'll go back to the front. That's crazy. So I am just hitting the C key and going between my cameras. If I go back to the top, you can see that we're back over here. So that part of it is pretty cool. Then another thing that I can do is I'm just going to show demo the file loading later, but just to go down, so 4 to 5 rendering modes. So we have 5 different shaders here. We have the color light, the wireframe. Um, these guys are these guys here and these guys here are texture lights. These are simple textures, and then the guys over here are color light, the constant color light. And if I go back to the top, you'll be able to see that their normals are set up correctly, so light is hitting them and sort of bouncing away. So that's that. Go back to the front. Finally, okay, so there's a scene graph here which I've printed out over here using our PCH tree, and I'll go through that in a second. This actually becomes useful because I'm going to demo texture swapping now. So if I hit the T key, T for textures, all the objects that have textures on them, we're going to swap textures on the fly. If I do it again, it's going to go. If I do it again, it's going to go. So they're getting whatever texture they currently have, they're going to get the next one that's on the list, and it sort of wraps around. So that's that. So yeah, I think that's like all the requirements. Like in terms of the demo, we have the cameras, multiple cameras, and like while I'm moving, I can swap and go here and swap back. Sorry, and come here. Yeah, that's something that I should fix right now. I'm not storing like a previous state or something, which is why the camera and the texture swapping is a little janky right now. But I think I've shown like all the demo features that we needed to have. Now I'm just gonna go into the code to sort of check all the boxes that we have, plus this demo is like really slow. So okay, so this is the basic setup. One thing that I did was over here, all the graphics objects that are using textures, I subclass them into this header, which literally it doesn't do much, but it becomes a lot more important when it's basically used for texture swapping. Of course, moving forward, we can do more things with it, but basically it just like it has the texture name, and upon construction, it increases the reference count of that texture. Other than that, everything that's happening is happening by the child classes, so that's fine. Um, okay, so where should we start? Okay, so I'm going to show off the game object manager over here. Pretty simple. Normal add, draws, updates, printing the scene graph, which is here. Now, one thing to note is that to do the texture swapping, I have 2 separate nodes over here, or like they act like 2 separate trees, a color and a texture. And all the game objects that use a texture-based graphics object all of them are like ultimately added to here. So you can see that in the game, whenever I construct a game object, I give it a type, which is either a texture or a color. And that way, when I add it to the game object manager, based on the type, it'll add it to the correct tree. And then the way that we swap the textures is there's a function over here at every update that listens for inputs, and that's the T key over here. And then it'll just have a forward iterator on just the texture tree. And what it does is since we know that it's a texture tree, we know that we can grab the graphics object, and it's always going to be a texture-based graphics object, and then it's just going to go and swap. It's just going to go and swap the texture with the next one on the list. So that's how that's happening. And in the texture manager, this is pretty simple. Yeah, we're just going to wrap around, find the texture, return the next one, and go from there. While we're on the texture manager, I can show one more thing that so every time that we have functions over here that have that talk about reference counting. So I just showed you that upon the construction of every texture-based graphics object, it increases the reference count over here. And similarly, whenever we destroy a texture-based graphics object, it's fun to say, every time we destroy it, we're going to decrease the reference count of that particular texture. And then on the texture manager, every time I want to remove a texture, I'm going to find it, but I'm only going to remove it if the reference count is 0. And so I have that function return a status, which is going to be true or false based on whether the removal was successful or not. Then the next, I think the important thing to show would be the camera. Okay, so our camera manager, we have a camera manager, and it again pretty straightforward: add, remove, find. What I do here is I have an active cam that I keep track of. So all my graphics objects, what they always use the active camera of the camera manager to update their matrices. So if let me just open any one of them up over here. So every time that I set a data GPU, I always get the active camera and I get the matrices off of that camera. So coming back to here, this is where I can cycle between the cameras. And what I do is, again, I listen for input over here, and based on that, I just return the next on the list, and I wrap around. Inside of the camera, what we can, it's like might as well nice to show that I have a cam link that's to the manager, and we have it's 16 byte aligned, and we have all of the math going around here. So setting of internals, calculating the frustum coordinates, setting orientation position, the frustumverts, and everything. And then I also have the function that zooms in and zooms out, so based on where you are, and there's some vector math going on there. Just to note, this is right now, it works on front cameras and top cameras the way that I have them. It sort of works on if I have like a right camera or a left camera, so that's something I need to fix. Then what else? Okay, so I have 3 other models that I created, and I loaded them from a file. I actually added a plane too, but I didn't use it. And I'm going to remove this bit later, but just to show that they were indeed written to files using triangle index lists, and then calculating all the normals, the UVs, and everything. And then once we do that, using our little hack, we just turn around and read them back from the file. Once that's done, you're using triangle lists to create the VAOs, sort of bind the whole thing together. And yeah, so that's basically everything with models. So we do this with the pyramid model and the diamond and the heart. All of them have the same thing. Okay, let me just go back through the list. Oh yeah, finally, the shaders. We have the different types of shaders here, and they're bound to the appropriate graphics objects. The shader object class just basically is used to create the shader and load the GLSL file over here, create it, and bind it to the program. The texture manager, I think I've already gone over most of it. The texture node itself is responsible. So we have an interface, and it was mentioned somewhere in the requirements to just change any of these parameters, min filters, mag filters, or the wrapping modes. So we have all that. The TGAs that we use are over here. What else do I need to show? I think that's most of it. That we have the lighting is done through the shaders. I just demoed the texture swapping, I demoed camera controls, I demoed the game object manager. So yeah, I think that's it. And okay, so yeah, the scene graph that I showed, and I'll just talk about this a little bit more, but other than that, we have the complex attribute support is all done. Finally, one thing to note is that if I go back over here, this is my libgen project. This is where I usually create my libraries, and this is where the libraries go in, and then my project is pointing to them. However, I'm also submitting the libraries that you have, and I'm using your PCS tree because my iterator is broken. My reverse iterator is broken, so um, the PCS tree is the one library that is yours that I use. Other than that, all the others are my own. Um, Yeah, I think that's it. I think I demoed most of the managers and most of the functionality that we needed for the demos. We have the minimum models and initial things going on. So, yep. I think that's it. Thank you so much. And this was a ridiculously hard quarter, but fun nonetheless. And I'll see you in Engine 2. Happy holidays.